Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I hope you are all having a fantastic day. Today I'm going to go through an event that happened at the weekend and also give you guys an update in regards to the front brake reservoir on the X8R-X. So without further ado, let's get into it.
I'm on my way. Lace up, start the day. Every turn's a story waiting.
So let's talk about what has happened at the weekend. Now, for those who haven't obviously seen my post on Facebook, because it's the only place where I've mentioned about it. Saturday night, early hours, Sunday morning, the X8R-X was targeted in an attempted robbery, which majestically failed spectacularly, thank goodness. Obviously, I didn't bear witness to it, but I say that because the ped is still outside the house. Now, what had happened is I used the ped on Saturday, got home, did all my usual routine of locking the ped up, so big chain, brake, throttle lock, alarm, and obviously putting the steering into the full left-hand side locking position. Come Sunday, I've gone to head out with the wife and noticed that the steering is pointing straight ahead. So I've gone to obviously check it, and it's freely moving left to right, including the wheel. I've then gone to use the key in the ignition and have noticed that the key only turns a quarter of the way. It doesn't come out of the steering lock position, so it won't go into ignition off to ignition on, which obviously points the fingers at someone has attempted to obviously steal the ped. Now, obviously, the reason the ped's still outside mine is because of the fact that it's got its two other locks on, but also because as they've obviously broken it free from the steering lock, it would have activated the motion sensor alarm, which is why they, to pull it nicely, chickened out of their attempted theft of the vehicle. Now, what is the consequence of what's happened here? So, the ped is now effectively immobilized. I cannot start it up because, as I mentioned, the key won't go into the ignition off position to then go into ignition on because it's sort of stuck in the lock position, which likely tells me that the steering lock has been badly damaged. I've got my father-in-law coming to check it on Tuesday. So that will be the 16th of December. Obviously, that would have been and gone by the time you guys would have seen this video. And he will obviously assess to see how bad the damage is. Hopefully, we can bypass it and it will be back out on the road so I can use it to get to work because it's my only form of getting to or from work. Obviously, with today being Monday as I'm recording this, father-in-law was going to come around today. However, things have come up, so he's not been able to do it. But he's saying that first thing tomorrow morning, he's going to pop round and take a look at it. As I mentioned, hopefully we can bypass the steering lock so that I can still use it. But if not, then I'm royally screwed for getting to work because I have no other way of getting in. And I know there's going to be people that are going to comment saying like, oh, why don't you use public transport? Why don't you use a taxi or something like that? First things first, there's no in regards to bus routes, there's no local bus link or route that goes anywhere near where I work. So even if I was to use a bus, in regards to walking from the nearest bus stop to where I got to work, is probably going to take about an hour, probably 2-hour walk, if that. In regards to taxis, yeah, sure, I can do that door to door. However, that would probably cost me more to get a taxi than it would to use my ped. So it's cheaper for me to use the ped than it would be to use the taxi. I've looked up how much it could cost for taxis and stuff, and I'm looking about probably nearly 20 quid one way, whereas filling the ped up only cost me about £6-7, and that lasts me a good week and a half, 2 weeks, depending on how often I use the ped. So yes, I could get a taxi, but at the moment, especially with Christmas being around the corner, it's just not happening. You know, there's no way I'm using that. I know people were saying, well, why don't you ask your friends? Surely you've got friends who could drop you off to work. Possibly. However, I doubt they would want... I don't want to inconvenience them. I know some of my mates would probably be like, you know, we have no problem. It's fine. We're happy to help. But I don't really want to, you know, have to rely on friends, you know, going out their way. Especially when I have shifts that work Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. I don't think my friends are going to be very happy if I have to ask one of them on Christmas Day to run me to work. And then, obviously, having to then pick me up from work at the end of the day. So, that's not an option. So, I need the ped. It's either ped or bust, basically. So, hopefully we can get it sorted out. I will do an update video once my father-in-law's come to check it out and to see what happens, and obviously I'll let you guys know what the situation's going to be going forward. So that happened, and obviously preventive measures. I've done one thing. Obviously, it's got everything else on. It's got its brake throttle lock on. It's got its big lock on. It's got its alarm on because the alarm doesn't operate off the battery. But I have, just as peace of mind for myself, I have taken the battery out. So in case the chancellors try and come back to try a second attempt at trying to steal the ped, they will have to walk it to wherever their hideout is, because you can't hotwire it if you don't have the battery for it. So I've done that. But I do have some good news though, and that is in regards to the front brake reservoir. Now, I did attempt to record a video in regards to sorting out the brake reservoir at the beginning of December. However, when I went to transfer the files over onto my laptop, for some reason the files were corrupted. I don't know why, but for some reason they were, and it meant that I could not record, well, I couldn't transfer the file to the laptop to then obviously edit the video to then obviously put that video out. Hence why the two videos in regards to music went out, because I created those and I thought I'd share them with you guys, even though it's not really sort of channel specific, but I thought it'd give you guys some content filler to sort of keep you guys interested for a little bit. But the good news is it got fixed. We was able to sort it out. The two screws that were in there were effectively sort of welded in, which doesn't mean they were actually welded. They weren't. It's just a term that I've used and that my father-in-law used to say that the screws were in so tight that they were effectively sort of welded themselves into the thread holes. So father-in-law done his wizardry, managed to get the old screws out, and obviously used a special tool to clear any other sort of gunk and junk out of the screw thread or out of the screw hole. We put two new screws in. He put a bit of copper compound in to obviously sort of give it a bit of water resistance, a bit of water tightness. And obviously we checked it. Turned out the brake fluid wasn't as low as initially thought, so we have just obviously topped it up just to make sure that there's more than enough in there. And then obviously, let's say we put the cap back on and put the new screws in, which is fantastic because it meant we didn't have to put an aftermarket part on, which is the one thing I was trying to avoid. So that got done. So massive shout out to my father-in-law Mike for his assistance on that. And as I said, he's going to come and help to try and bypass the the steering lock so I can still use the ped, because if not, then I'm, like I said, in regards to work, I'm royally screwed. So, yeah, unfortunately that's that. But it is what it is. But at least the brake fluid's been done. Well, the front reservoir's done. So, we've done that. So the only things that got to be left to done is left to be done is new seat to obviously replace the one that's got the rip in. Obviously, new exhaust to replace the slightly leaky exhaust that's on there at the moment. But those will get done more likely in the new year. Obviously, those are like quick jobs that can be done whilst I'm still using the X8R-X as a daily. Which, if I get time, money to do it, I'll do it. If not, then I will wait until I can obviously save myself up for a new daily, because I am in the process of trying to source myself a new daily. Obviously, I want to upgrade to a 125. So I'm in the process of trying to sort of source one of them out and try and put money aside for one of those. So it may be a case of like any sort of like upgrade bits that I do with the X8R-X may wait until after I've got myself a 125, and then I can use the X8R-X as a full project ped to do like a full restore on, should I wish to go down that angle. Obviously, the one issue I would have then is I don't ideally want a 50cc and a 125 parked outside my house, because obviously thief chances will obviously try their luck again, which I don't really want for a second time. So what will probably happen is once the 50cc becomes a project bike, as long as my father-in-law is happy with it, I'll likely store it around his house, and then which has a lot more security features than what I've got, and then I can have access to his tools and stuff, because he'll have any tools that I don't have to be able to do anything that I need to do to it. So there's that. As I said, the 125 will come in handy as well when I want to do the hotel visits as well, because I'll be able to travel further out on that. But yeah, it's put a whole kibosh on things, as if things weren't already delayed because of lack of funding or because of a new job and trying to obviously get settled into a new role. As if all this wasn't bad enough, the fact that the PED's had what it's had done to it has just, compounded things. So it is annoying, but unfortunately it's life. So there's no, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm upset that someone's attempted to obviously steal the PED, but I can be thankful and grateful knowing that it's still out there. They didn't get away with anything. So yeah, it has affected me a bit, but I'm trying not to sort of let it get on top of me. But like I said, it has made me worry because of the fact that now without that, I effectively can't go to work, which means I'm going to be losing out on money because of it. So, but hopefully I'll have an update soon in regards to what's happening with the PED, and hopefully my father-in-law is quite a brilliant guy, so hopefully he'll be able to figure out hopefully he can figure out if there's nothing he can do in regards to sort of getting the ignition out of the steering lock position to sort of bypass it. If he can't do anything and he's saying it's going to be a garage job, then hopefully he'll know a workaround where we'll be able to hopefully source a PED from somewhere, and then quickly get it insured and taxed, and then I can use that as a backup I mean, the X8R-X was just a temporary ped until I could get a 125, but I may have to get a backup for a backup, or get a temporary for a temporary. So, but yeah, hopefully, if it's a case of if he says right, okay, I'll help you try and find you a 50cc to use as a backup for this, whilst you've got this sort of off the road until it can be dealt with, and then that may be the last chance saloon. But yeah, I at this moment in time, because of Christmas, I don't have money for a new ped. But if he can pull a rabbit out the hat, then thank the Lord, I guess. But yeah, I thought I'd keep you guys in the loop about what's been going on, because like I said, this channel's about the ped and it's about other things as well. So yeah, so there we are, guys. So that just wraps up the video for today. Yeah, I guess if there's any lesson to come out of this, just make sure you have your bike fully secured. Like I said, lucky enough, they didn't get away with my ped because of because of the alarm I had on there, which obviously scared them. But yeah, obviously, if you are a moped rider, bike rider, what, make sure your bike is fully secured, especially this time of year where the nights are longer as well. So it gives thieves plenty more opportunity to try and attempt to steal things in the dark. So make sure you've got a tracker on your bike. I am looking at getting a tracker at some point for the X8R-X. Obviously, make sure you've got an alarm. Obviously, check it. Like a smoke alarm in your house. Check it once a week. Make sure the battery works, especially if you have an alarm that works independent off of your main ped's battery. Yeah, obviously, make sure you've got a lock. I know people will go and buy a cheap lock and think that'll do. Honestly, don't get a cheap lock. Buy an expensive lock. Make sure it's up to standard for what you need. Always get that bike locked, even if you think even if you're only gonna leave it for 5-10 minutes. Get it locked, get it secured. Just do everything you can to make sure that thing is a hot potato. And like I said, obviously mine has everything that it can have at the moment. But yeah, obviously I was one of the lucky ones that didn't get it. But obviously plenty of people's bikes get stolen. So yeah, make sure you get that thing locked up nice and good. But yeah, like I said, thank you for watching, guys. And hopefully I'll have another video before the end of the year. As I said, obviously, once I know the situation in regards to the steering lock, I'll do a little update video and hopefully try and have that out before the year's out. So yeah, but obviously keep an eye on the channel. Obviously you'll see when new videos are going to pop up as well. Because if you've got that notification bell hit, obviously you'll be notified once a new video is dropped. But obviously if you are following me on social media, Instagram, TikTok or whatever, I will try and sort of put a post up on there when a new video drops, so you guys can go and check it out. So yeah, thanks once again, everybody. And I will see you all in the next one.